Hope you're all doing well. I hope you guys are ready to crush this thing because this menu is so good. Two of the most requested items from meal preps are almond flax chicken nuggets. If you've been around for a while, you know those well. And the salmon burgers. Came up with those 2 summers ago when I was cooking for a client out in the Hamptons. Made them every day for this client. And it's been a staple in our home ever since. And you guys apparently love them as well. So we've just rounded up all the goodies in one amazing summery meal prep that you guys are gonna love. On the menu, we've got those salmon burgers I was telling you about, which pairs so beautifully with ratatouille. My client came up with that actually. Almond flax chicken nuggets with asparagus and smoky ketchup, ratatouille bowls with quinoa, avocado, and optional chicken for repurposing. Plus you're using that ratatouille twice. And confetti quiche with tortillas and smoky ketchup, which is the way you're repurposing those peppers and onions that are going into that salmon burger. So if you are new here, this is Prep and Rally. Head to prepandrally.com to subscribe. You can try it out for a month free. And as you guys know, or may not know, but now you do know, that we repurpose all kinds of Sunday meal prep items so that we are saving a ton of money, saving a ton of time. We are doing things once and making multiple uses out of it. My grocery bill for this week, I think was about $70 or something insane like that. I had so many items at home already. So that is the hope, is to save you guys money. So whenever possible, repurpose whatever you have. If you don't have basil today, use parsley. If you don't have cilantro, you could use this or that. You could always swap things in and out. Use that private Facebook group that we have. Just search Prep and Rally on Facebook. We have a group and we also have a page. The group is the member access resource, which is phenomenal. And it's an amazing community of people going through all of this with you. So you can always reach out on there, see how you could repurpose something or swap something out, or you could just reach out to me directly because I am literally your biggest cheerleader this whole journey, as you can see. So we're gonna get started on that ratatouille. I'm making half a batch because Mike is traveling a little bit and I know the girls don't eat as much of it. So it's mainly just me. It does freeze beautifully, and I do make a note on here what you can do with the leftovers if you have. It makes an amazing like matbucha kind of sauce. So you could 100% turn it into that, and I give you instructions on how to do that. It is so good. So if it's too much, either have the recipe or freeze it or turn it into a yummy dip. Got my pot here, got a large pot, getting it nice and heated. So I'm not gonna exactly do half the recipe, kind of making it up a little bit, which is what I'm really good at. I just love not following recipes. And I really want to instill that in you guys, that confidence to modify. If your grocery store doesn't have something, if you run out, if you want to use something else up that you have in your home, I really want you guys to know how to make those modifications and make it work for you. Okay? I never want you running to like 15 grocery stores. I'm telling you, the amount of people that message me on Instagram saying, I've just been to 4 stores and I can't find this one spice. And I always say, no, you're defeating the whole purpose of Prep and Rally. You need to just reach out and ask what else you could use instead of that. Maybe instead of, if you don't have the Old Bay seasoning, which I'll show you because I get a lot of questions about that. Such a good seasoning blend. I actually ran out of my regular one. This is like one with blackening seasoning. Trying it out. Never used it. But I didn't feel like going to another store to pick it up. So that's what I'm using. But you could always just Google what is in Old Bay seasoning because it's just a spice blend. And you could just kind of fudge it. If there's garlic powder, celery salt I think is in it, onion powder, you could just add those spices on your own. You don't need the brand name. So always just make it work for you. All right, olive oil, get yourself in there. Saw something funny on Instagram about like how once you become an adult, your Sundays are, one of you guys tagged me in it actually, your Sundays are just about prepping ahead for the week. It's no more Sunday fun day, it's just prep ahead. And that's also just the opposite of Prep and Rally. Like I want you to go out on a Sunday, do your thing, have an amazing day, which is what I do, and then at night, you know, if you just order your groceries online, that is a massive time saver. I do that all the time. I never shop in the store unless I'm just picking up meat, but even today I had all my meat delivered, which really saved me time. I'm just seasoning my onions with some salt. It'll help break them down faster. So get those nice and golden and caramelized, okay? But this prep only takes an hour. So, you know, it really depends on how fast or slow you get through it, depending on your knife skills and a whole bunch of other factors. But it's supposed to take an hour. If you want to skip a few things, I'm not making the ketchup today because I actually ran out of ketchup. And that's literally 2 ingredients. I can make that the day of. So figure out what works for you. If you want to separate things, if you want to just make 2 items from this week, you don't have a ton of time, just make it work for you, okay? But the whole idea is to enjoy your day on Sunday or any day you're prepping. Spend the hour, whatever it is, prepping. And then you save all that time all week long. All right, so we're just gonna add all these ingredients to the pot. And that's it. And then it's just gonna cook down, get really, really sweet and yummy. The longer you cook it, the better it gets because it breaks down and gets super rich and yummy. So as you guys can sort of-ish see, hold on, let me just split this little guy. Okay. So I actually had these from a little photo shoot. They're just these pretty eggplants. And they were starting to turn. I was like, you know what? Instead of buying new ones, I'm just gonna use these up. Why not? It's an eggplant. So just gonna chop these up. So get your eggplant in here. As I told you, I don't have zucchinis today. So I'm using a little bit more eggplant than the recipe calls for. It does make a lot of ratatouille. So if you're not a huge ratatouille fan, you don't think your kids or your family's gonna eat it, you could have this. Or as I mentioned, it freezes beautifully. So adjust accordingly, but it is going to be used for 2 dinners because it's a side dish that we're serving the first night with the salmon burgers. And then you're gonna make ratatouille bowls that you're gonna be serving over quinoa, which is so good. It's a great vegetarian meal. And then if you wanted to, you could top it with leftover chicken nuggets that you just slice into there. So do what works for you. Really make it work for anyone, all kinds of diets. I'm doing half the recipes. I'm only doing 1 of these cans, okay? But if you're doing the full, go for your 2 cans. We got our diced tomatoes in there. Balsamic, I ran out of everything, but this just shows you gotta roll with it. You don't totally need it. It adds amazing flavor. So if you have balsamic, throw it in there. I promise you it's worthwhile. A little bit of maple, just add some extra sweetness. It's yummy. That balsamic is really like when I was making it for my client, that's really what took us over the top. It adds such richness. I'm telling you, it adds such amazing flavor. You may be thinking like balsamic is such a weird thing to throw in there. I don't know. Trust me on it. And what I used to do, actually, I used to have like a balsamic reduction that I used to use. And you could even add that in, if you have a reduction, you could add that in at the end when it's done cooking. And oh my God, it makes it so delicious and so rich. So I used to do that all the time. It was kind of like my secret weapon. It was awesome. All right, give that a mix around. That's it. Salt, onion powder, garlic powder. Just gonna season it up. And then all that liquid from those eggplants is going to start to release, which is going to really make it nice, and it's going to create like the juice in here, but then it's all just going to kind of break down. The tomatoes are going to caramelize. You guys are just going to love this. So good, so summery. I really think ratatouille works all year round, even though it uses zucchinis and squash and very summery items. I feel like as a kid, at least my mom used to make it like every Friday night. Oh, there's more in here, but you're not coming out. Come on, mister. All right, good enough. Out with it. Okay. And oregano. Throw it in there. Beautiful. And okay. And then basil you can add in at the end or now or both. Totally your call. But that's the whole dang thing. Okay, so, and that tomato paste, you want the tomato paste and the canned tomato, or like the chopped tomatoes, because the tomato paste is thick and condensed and it makes the whole thing rich and delicious. Okay, so, kind of annoyed I forgot my zucchinis. I love zucchinis. Beautiful. Okay, lower this down to a simmer. And let that just do its thing. It's gonna cook for a while, okay? Next, I have a pot here with all my quinoa ingredients. I put the quinoa, the water, you could do a little pinch of salt, Boom, you guys know my quinoa trick if you've been doing this for a while. I'll repeat it if not. It's basically, my ratio is 1 cup quinoa to 1 3/4 cups water. Every recipe will say 1 cup quinoa to 2 cup water. It's too much water and it just makes a soggy, gross quinoa. So trust me on this one, it's gonna change your quinoa life forever. Okay, great. Next up, I have another pan here. And this is where a little pre-prep comes into play, because having all of your utensils, all of your ingredients, everything set up and ready for you in advance helps so much. It just helps you fly through the meal prep. If you're either watching this video, even if you're not watching the video, you can crank up your music. If you're doing it with your spouse, everything is ready for you and it makes it fun. It just makes it like you're just able to tackle everything really easily, efficiently. You're not running back and forth for pots and pans. That's how you waste a ton of time. So spending that time to just organize yourself makes all the difference, okay? So trust me, do your pre-prep, set up all your little stations on your countertop. I wish you could see my full counter, but I have everything just set up in sections. So like I'm already prepared and ready to go. Now, in this pan, I'm gonna add a little bit of oil. We're going to be sauteing some peppers and onions. We're gonna set aside a 1/2 cup. The 1/2 cup is for the salmon burgers, okay? 1/2 cup is gonna be going on the salmon burgers, so we're gonna let that cool and set it aside. Have a little glass, I'm gonna put that in. The rest you save for later in the week, and that's gonna be going in that kind of confetti quiche, all right? So again, this is how we save time, people, okay? You do things once, and you use it 2 ways, okay? So if you're already cutting peppers and onions, you're already sauteing something and dirtying up a pan, I try to find ways that you can use that twice. Quinoa, once it's coming up to a boil, cover it, lower to a simmer, let it do its thing for like 10 minutes or so. Okay, boom. To cut your onion, okay? Cut it in half. Boop. You want a sharp knife, you're more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife. All right, and hold your hand up, fingers pointing to the sky. And I just make 2 slits most of the way through, but you want your onion to still be intact, so don't go all the way through. Then go in the opposite direction. Little slits, again, don't go all the way through. Turn it this way. So now you have a grid. You have this way, you have that way. And boom. And you adjust your grid depending on how big or small you want your pieces of onion, okay? And then once you get to this point, I just make another grid. I kind of go that way, turn it, and finish off this way, okay? Heat is on in that pan. Throw your onions in there. You're watching this, you're here, you're dedicated. And as I always say, it's kind of like working out. It's like I'm your trainer. You're here, you're dedicated. You've signed up, you've shopped, you're watching this. Or maybe you're just watching this because you're curious what Prep and Rally is and how we get through all this stuff. And you're awesome. And you're gonna head to my website after this and you're gonna join because it's gonna change your life. I promise you. All right, that's my onion starting to saute. You can add a little bit of salt, which is what I always do. It just helps bring out the moisture, and then it gets them to that golden caramelized flavor. Just go through and slice your pepper into some strips. So you see I have little strips here, as if like you were snacking on them. And then you turn it, slice strips one way, and then cut across this way. Get a nice sharp knife. Doesn't have to be expensive, just keep it sharp. Throw your peppers in there, and then just keep sauteing it. That's it, okay? Then you're gonna reserve 1/2 cup that you're gonna let cool for those salmon burgers. Once that's nice and cool, we'll add it to the burgers, and then the rest you're going to be reserving for the end of the week, okay? Lovely. Check on everything you're doing. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. We'll be throwing some stuff in there soon. Ratatouille is boiling. I'm lowering that to a simmer. Quinoa still cooking, another minute or 2. And moving right along. Okay, so almond flax nuggets, friends. So good. Came up with this recipe years ago. Kids love it, grown-ups love it. That's what we're all about. Pleasing all with one menu, right? So here we go. All right, baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Chicken breast cut into thin strips, okay? This is when I like to move my board so we don't contaminate, and that way we get to use this later on. I have one plate here. I have my flax meal and my almond meal. So we have a mixture of the 2 of these, salt, pepper. Just want to season this up really well, okay? I'm not gonna season all the chicken individually, so I'm just gonna season the coating. Keep an eye on those peppers and onions. Be sure you're mixing those around. You sometimes feel like an octopus when we're doing these meal preps. I want you to feel like an octopus, a badass octopus who is literally tackling everything. I always used to say, like as a private chef, when I was cooking for clients, like I would have 15 things going at any given time. And once you learn to do that little juggling act, you're so efficient. I always would tell people, like if I would do one thing at a time, I would get nothing done and I would work all day long. So, yeah, gotta multitask. That's what it's about. So I like to use these handy dandy little tongs to coat anything, which makes it easy. So mixing this around. If you wanted to add some like dried oregano into this, if you want to add some paprika, if you wanted to add, I don't know, whatever, rosemary, like add your little pizzazz. Put whatever you like in here, okay? I have my egg whisked in here, my breading in here, and my chicken in here. Now, take your parchment lined baking sheet. I like to take a spray. I spray the parchment paper, and that's not to keep it from sticking. Most people think it's because it's gonna stick. No, that's why I'm using parchment paper, so it doesn't stick, and also it's easy cleanup, but I do that so that you don't have to oil both sides of it. You're just oiling the sheet, then you cover it, like you put the chicken on top of the oiled sheet pan, and then you just spray the top so that both sides end up being coated with oil so you get that crispiness everywhere. It's not a life hack, okay? Use it and enjoy it. Okay, so you guys know the drill. Simple stuff here. Little time consuming, worth it, okay? So you're essentially just gonna take all your chicken, okay? Work in batches, but at this point you could just kind of like coat all the chicken all in one shot, and then you're just gonna dredge it in that breadcrumb. If you don't like the idea of an almond flax chicken nugget, you just wanna make breaded chicken, your kids like breaded chicken, do what works for you, adjust. Just don't buy those ingredients. Make it work for you. If you have never tried these, I highly recommend it. My kids are obsessed. They have no idea they're healthy. They're just a nugget. They're so good. I've gotten so many kids to eat these. It's crazy. So, here we go. Just coat each one in this flour mixture. Okay. Never fully cut through that, but whatever, it's cool. And here we go. And again, my oven's already preheated, 400 degrees, so be sure to have that going. So you're ready to just pop this in. Easy peasy, almost good to go here. I know this part's a little time consuming, but they're gonna be good. And what's cool about this is that you're making these once, and you're gonna likely use these in 2 different dinners, because you're gonna have it the first night with the asparagus and the ketchup, that smoky ketchup, and then you're gonna have it as an option in your ratatouille bowls to add some protein in there. So again, making things once, using it twice. That is what it's all about. Ooh, my quinoa, my gosh, don't forget about that. Boy, pulling it off the heat, taking that lid off, and right when I get these into the oven, I'm going to get that quinoa into a storage container so it can start cooling, so that you're not waiting up all night waiting for it to cool. Plus, you don't want your quinoa to get mushy and keep overcooking, because that's when it just gets gross. You don't want mushy quinoa, which is why every recipe is just wrong when it says 2 cups. So just follow my lead when it comes to the quinoa, okay? So I am using an extra large sheet pan. You guys know my obsession with them. You can go in the shop section of my site, or on Instagram. It's in my highlights in the shop section. It's the greatest thing in the world. I have 2 of them and I'm obsessed. You may need to use 2 sheet pans if you do not have an extra large one. So adjust accordingly. I always have a garbage right here. And the reason why I love it is you could do one of those little restaurant swipes. That way you're always clean, okay? So, see, I told you it's extra large. It's so big. I feel like I'm running low on this. Perfect amount, beautiful, okay. So look, so we just spray the tops. Yes, perfect. Ah, beautiful. All right, into the oven, and this is gonna cook for bloop, bloop, 30 minutes or so. All right, get that in. We're also going to get this in 1 minute. Set that aside. Let me just get that quinoa out and into a storage container. You know what? Actually, hold on. All right. So I also only made half of the amount of quinoa because, as I mentioned, Mike is away. Plus, I'm testing a lot of menus this week, so I'm just going easy on some of these recipes because we're just putting out a lot of food. So, but you should have double the amount of this if you followed your instructions. Okay. Cool. Throw that in there. All right. Lovely. Check on your ratatouille. Yum. Smells like summer. Smells so good. And you could also just freeze this or use it throughout the week. Put it on pasta. Oh my God, it's so good. Use it as like a tomato sauce. Make shakshuka with it. Literally do everything with it. It is such a great staple to just always have around all summer long. And I love giving you guys different ideas of how to repurpose things. So yeah, shakshuka for breakfast, pasta during the week, or for camp, for your kids, whatever. Really quick, asparagus. I have them washed and cleaned. Seasoned, salt, salt, salt. Okay, we have that oven on 400 already. Little drizzle of olive oil. Beauty. And give it a little toss, toss. Okay, I don't like to cook asparagus for too long. I like when they stay nice and crisp and green, especially if you're gonna be reheating them. Plus some of them is gonna be going into that quiche that you're gonna be cooking. So you don't want to cook it for too long. So it's anywhere from like 10 minutes or so, 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, throw these in, 400, get that going. All we have left is those salmon burgers. And then we got the mustard crema and the smoky ketchup, which I'm skipping today, but it's like 2 ingredients essentially. So I'm gonna make that the day of when I replenish my ketchup supply because we have none. Okay. Let's talk salmon burgers. These are so stinking good. Okay, I already have my salmon, skin off, bones removed, finely chopped. I did all that myself. If you have like a fishmonger, get it done for you. It makes it so easy. Either you could grind it like meat almost, or just finely chop it, totally your call. Fresh salmon is the greatest thing in the world. It does not taste like a salmon croquette that you grew up with. It has such a different flavor than that canned stuff. It doesn't even taste the same. And I feel the same way about tuna. Tuna fish in a can, I can't touch. I don't like it at all. But tuna fish, like the actual tuna steak, I'm obsessed with. Totally different flavor. So yeah, it's totally funky. Okay, bringing back my little board. So I have parchment lined baking sheet ready to go for my salmon burgers. I'm likely gonna cook these in the air fryer, which I did last time. No oil, super crisp. They were perfection in there because salmon has oil in it already. So if you have an air fryer, definitely try it out in there. Otherwise, you could bake them on your baking sheet, or you could pan sear them in a baking, in a frying pan, which is what I used to do for my client. So good. Okay, so got my salmon. We're gonna add the peppers and onions. We're gonna add in a minute. I'm just giving a little mix around because you see that heat that's still coming out of there. So I'm just gonna mix it around to let them cool a tiny bit more before I add it directly on top of that salmon. So I'm gonna add these in last. So stand by with those peppers and onions. Salmon, so it's about a pound or so. Okay, then we got our panko. If you're gluten-free, you can use gluten-free breadcrumbs. Okay, also you could also use gluten-free bread. So this is the little secret to making the perfect burger or meatball. It's just a piece of bread. So can you guys kind of see what I'm doing? So I just wet it, okay? I know it sounds really weird and kind of looks gross, but you want to wet one slice of bread, okay? Look at this. It's kind of gross, I know. And then you crumble it into here, okay? I'm using whole grain bread. Use any kind you like. What this does is that if you're just adding breadcrumbs are dry, so they're gonna take all that moisture out and suck it out, okay? But if you look at any good like meatball recipe or any good burger recipe, they'll have either milk in it or some sort of liquid together with the breadcrumb, because you don't want to just add dry, you want to add a little bit of moisture as well. So by wetting that bread, you're adding that moisture back in, so you get a really moist, fluffy, amazing burger, okay? So we got the bread, panko. We're gonna chop up basil and parsley. Before we do so, let's get our egg in there. 1 egg, let's get our spices in. Okay, so salt, you guys can measure if you prefer. Call. Salt, pepper, onion powder. I ran out of that onion powder, so I'm gonna use some garlic powder. Totally fine. Old Bay, as I mentioned, it's just a seasoning blend, but it's classic for seafood. It's amazing. This is like blackening spice. I'm kind of nervous it may be a little bit spicy, so I'm not doing too much. Even Old Bay has a little bit of heat to it, so if you're very scared of your kids, if your kids really can't stand anything spicy, it's not spicy, but it has like a little zing to it, so just go a little bit lighter on that, okay? And then Worcestershire sauce, which adds really, really good richness. That's it. Okay, then we're just going to add these peppers and onions in a minute. Let's chop up some herbs. I'm gonna get some extra herbs that are gonna go in that, the ratatouille as well. So, got some basil, and parsley. I love a lot of herbs in here. It's so good. Okay, beautiful. So just pull off all those little stems. Already cleaned all these. That's the first thing I do when I'm about to prep. I just get my bowls filled up. You guys have seen me do this on Instagram. I fill up those bowls. It's like big mixing bowls with water. You could do either vinegar or you could do salt. Today I just did salt because I ran out of vinegar. They both work. You're essentially just like killing the bugs. I know it sounds gross, but especially organic has a lot of buggies because they don't spray them. Yeah, you're just going to gather everything together and then run your knife through it. And what's annoying is that my cutting board got so messed up. So let's see if I can, hold on. You see it kind of like rocking. Stinks, man. Dad, I need a new one. Okay, that works a little bit. All right, so just gather it all together, run your knife through it. So yeah, back to cleaning your herbs. Just fill up big bowls of water. Let them soak in that either vinegar or the salt for like 10 minutes or so, which is going to kill any bugs and detach them, essentially. Then you're gonna spill out that water, add fresh water, shake, 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 spill it out again, do it one more time. So you only have to put the vinegar or the salt in once, just that first time for the 10 minutes, just to like kill whatever's on there. And then you're just shaking out with water a few times after that. And I do the same thing with the asparagus too. It smells so good. So most is gonna go into there, okay? The rest I'm gonna throw into my ratatouille. There's parsley and there's basil here. You could just do one, or you could do both, totally your call. I love them both. Okay, throw everything in that. That's it. So take this, give it a mix around, and we're gonna add in those peppers and onions. So again, we did it once, we're using it twice. Don't you love that? Okay, oh my God, it smells so good. Okay, take off your rings. All right. I'm telling you, these salmon burgers are literally my obsession. And yours too. I mean, it's my most searched recipe, I think, ever. Salmon burgers and my almond date biscotti. So if you have never made either of those recipes, get on it. They both live on the deanieklein.com website, or if you are a subscriber for a while or been a subscriber, you've seen them in previous meal prep plans. But you can always just search on the Deanie Klein website for them, okay? So, hands are your best tools, okay? So just get in there and just kind of squish everything together. You could just store it in the fridge and then form them fresh the night of. Or you could just do that now. The more you chop up your salmon, the tighter you're gonna get these, but like they're just so beautiful. Fresh salmon in these burgers. Be sure you just squeeze these tight so they hold together. Okay. And if you feel they are not binding for whatever reason, depending on your breadcrumb, you can always add more. Just add more. Also, depending on how finely ground your salmon is, it holds together better. Plus, if you've chopped up your peppers and onions, if they're pretty big pieces, it also makes it like hard to fully stay in a burger. But like, that's it, you just pack them tight like this. So good. And what you're supposed to do is just put an extra quarter cup, just coat them with some extra panko. I usually don't end up doing that, but you totally could. So this makes like, I'd say 5 or 6 big burgers, but you can make them little babies as well. That's my asparagus telling you to take me out. We will in 1 second. Okay, so we have 4. So I'm just gonna do 5 big burgers. Okay. Oh my God, these are so good. I'm so excited because they're like kind of annoying to make, but once you're in it, once you shop for the stuff, you've committed, you do it, you're just gonna be so happy. Okay, just make sure you're squeezing and packing it tightly. You don't want these falling apart on you. Okay, beautiful. All right, set this off to the side, give yourself a wash, and get that asparagus out ASAP. The asparagus doesn't look brown. It's brightly green. It still has some, it's still tough. You want it to still have bite to it. It's going to continue cooking. It's called carryover cooking. It continues cooking even once you take it out. The pan is hot. It's still cooling. So once it's cooling, it's continuing to cook a little bit more and wilt. Plus, you're going to be reheating it. So just don't kill them. Okay? All right, I'll show you my salmon burgers. How gorge. Look at that. Looks so stinking good. I'm gonna stick these in the air fryer afterwards. And I am pretty stinking stoked because it's like my favorite thing ever. Okay, one last thing because I'm skipping the ketchup today. The ketchup is literally smoked paprika and if you want to do sriracha. Or you could just skip it and just serve your nuggets with plain ketchup. Either way, easy. But yeah, I mean, you do not need to make the smoky ketchup at all, or you don't need to make it today. Totally your call, okay? This ratatouille is smelling so stinking good. So excited. Okay, quickest crema in the world, okay? A crema is just a yummy, creamy sauce. Usually sour cream based. If you wanted to use Greek yogurt, go right ahead. There's something so like comforting and yummy about sour cream. I love it. Okay, sour cream goes in. Mustard. So this I used to make for a different client. And then actually the salmon burgers, like years ago when I was first starting to private chef for people, there was this one client I used to cook for on the east side. I would deliver to her. And I would make her like fresh salmon burgers as well, but they're more like Asian-y style. There's scallions in there, soy sauce, really, really yummy, but also fresh salmon. She only liked fresh salmon. So that started with fresh salmon adventure. All right, so you're gonna season with some salt and pepper. We have that mustard in there. And then if you wanted to add some like fresh basil, you 100% can do that. But that's the whole thing. Give it a little taste. On top of a salmon burger. You guys are going to love me this week, I swear. This is the best menu ever. That's the whole thing. Chicken is still cooking. It'll be in there for another 15 minutes or so. Our sauce is ready to go. Our quinoa looks fluffy and beautiful and cooling. We have these veggies, which I'm gonna reserve for later on in the week. Ratatouille is gonna go for another like 20 minutes or so. Asparagus is done, and my salmon burgers are about to get thrown into the air fryer, or you could just store them like that overnight and then cook them fresh the next day when you eat them. That is it, my friend. I'm confident you're gonna love this one. So go enjoy it. Have an amazing week, and be sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, @PrepandRally. I'm all over, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. All right, reach out anytime. Have an amazing week. Go crush it. Love you guys.